Welcome to Gene and Mike do the New York Times crossword.
Hi, I'm Jean.
And I'm Mike. And today we are doing the crossword for Friday, May 16th, 2025. So, on a date that I'm convinced has some sort of a mathematical pattern to it, but I can't quite spot it.
Yes.
Did you do the crossword?
I did.
And were you able to spot the crossword?
Very easily, yes.
It was right there in the app as soon as you launched it, I presume.
That is correct.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you find said crossword?
I found it amazingly easy for a Friday.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't believe how fast I got it done.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it looked like it was a challenging puzzle. And it did have some challenging clues in it, but boy, I just worked through it really quickly.
Oh, I know how that happened.
How?
Because you're smart.
Oh, I don't know.
And you know things.
I was smart about the clues in this one anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there were a lot that I did know, which is so unusual on a Friday. You know, usually I'm like halfway through the grid before I even find one I know.
Right.
But this one, I just started off and just kept going, got done in about 19 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, that is really fast for me for a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like my Tuesday.
So what'd you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good. I actually got it through in about 25 minutes, and but I was, sort of collapsing as I was doing it. So I thought that was pretty good, all things considered.
Yes.
And I didn't get much traction when I first started in the top left corner, and I sort of had to wander about before I could get some clues going. I think it was actually in the bottom right where I started to really get traction.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then just sort of worked from there.
Uh-huh.
But there were lots of fun clues.
Yes.
I mean, one thing that sort of really loused me up in the top left, one across was one shooting for the stars, ? Mm-hmm. And so I went for paparazzi.
Oh.
I felt very good about paparazzi, but the correct answer was spaceship.
Yes. Uh-huh.
A little bit simpler there.
Right. Well, I mean, you think a Friday one, it might be paparazzi.
Right.
That's a tricky word and a kind of a tricky clue for that.
Tricky word to spell.
Mm-hmm.
And we had two down. The river through Santa Fe National Forest was the Pecos.
Pecos.
Which I'm assuming, based on the fact that you just corrected my pronunciation, you know.
Yes, I did know that.
And the one next to it, I don't know what it is in my upbringing, but 3 down was flabbergasted, and I always want to be aghast as opposed to a gasp. I'm not quite sure. I guess when you're aghast, you're horrified by something.
Yes.
And when you're a gasp, you're just sort of surprised, just stunned by something. I mean, that's what flabbergasted means.
A gasp, there is something called a gasp, like is gas. You're gasping.
Right.
So I guess that maybe denotes that you are making that sound, a sound of a gasp.
I suppose.
So whereas aghast is that's just an adjective. There's no noun in it. But
what about hast? Have you forgotten thy Shakespeare? I hast not.
So I don't know, but I don't know, when I see a gasp, I always think there's a sound associated with it. Somebody is gasping.
Well, I was aghast when I read 23 across. Who said, "Where id is, there shall ego be"? And the answer was Freud. And my first thought was, well, that can't be right because he was Austrian. He spoke German. He never would have said, "Where id is, there shall ego be." But then I researched it. It turns out he spoke German, French, Italian, Spanish, English, Hebrew, Latin, and Greek.
Oh, my goodness.
So he definitely could have said that. In fact, he could have said it 8 different times in 8 different languages, which would have been cool, but he probably didn't want to belabor the point.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. I thought 25 was an unusual answer. The clue was chase as some flies, and it was shag.
Right.
I've never heard shagging flies. Oh, I guess maybe fly balls.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about baseball.
I know, but even it's kind of an unusual shagging.
I went for
They shagged that ball.
Isn't that a type of haircut?
It is a type of haircut, yes. Uh-huh.
Perhaps if you do a good job of shagging some flies, they give you an honorary shag haircut. I don't know.
I think it's a British term for like making out. No.
It's a British term for something.
Yeah.
Probably offensive.
Maybe more than that.
Yeah, we may need to edit this part out.
But anyway, I found that unusual.
I went for SWAT initially.
Me too. But 12 down did that in. Announcers call before a potential buzzer beater for the win.
See, I had for the tie.
Oh.
Because I had that I as the penultimate letter in that, and I thought, well, it's a tie, but I guess they could keep going.
That's right.
For the win.
That's right.
As it were.
Yes.
We had 31 down was one whose voice is a muted trombone in Peanuts. That was adult.
That's right.
I have such a great idea to do that. That way they don't have to inject adults into it. We had 43 across. 43 across was decorative work with bricks, Lego art.
Yes.
I wasn't quite ready for that.
I was trying to think of, like travertina or mosaic or, things like that. But yeah, Lego art. So.
I just had this idea walking into the Louvre, and there right beside the Mona Lisa would be the Mona Lisa in Legos. And a little
sure.
sign underneath. Which one do you prefer?
I'm sure it could be done.
Mm-hmm. So. We had 61 across, 61 across. Sarcastic reply when someone quotes Star Trek. Nerd alert.
Nerd alert.
Yep.
I never say that.
So this, I was about to say, since I am slowly working my way through Star Trek Lower Decks and enjoying it immensely, I haven't had anyone say nerd alert when I start talking about it, though.
Well, good.
I did not know 38 down. I'm sort of embarrassed by that. Radioactive element whose name is derived from the Greek for unstable. Astatine.
No, I didn't know that either.
That sounds like something you put...
I'm not at all embarrassed by it.
Well, that sounds like something you put down on like in a stadium. They roll out the astatine or something like maybe that's AstroTurf.
AstroTurf.
It'd be great if they had like AstroTurf with a layer of astatine on top of it. It'll make the players run extra fast, knowing that they might die of radiation poisoning if they slow down.
Or maybe whoever markets astatine could, they could say, and our tarp today was sponsored by astatine.
That's right. The only radioactive element you need to get through the day.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We had 14 down. 14 down was its milk is a source of chirpy Nepalese cheese, and that was yak.
Yes.
Have you ever had any chirpy?
Nope.
I wonder if I'm pronouncing that right. It's spelled CHHURPI. That second H seems unnecessary.
Right.
It's just sort of there for the ride, I guess.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's probably chahurpy or something like that.
Who knows? Oh.
58 across was bravo me. I nailed it.
Yes.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And then 51, to go with a gas, 51 down, we had lit, and that was a fire.
Yes.
I don't ever say a fire. Do you? Like, oh, it's a fire.
Well, let's suppose that something's burning. I'd go, look, a fire.
Well, yes, but I would say, look, that's on fire.
Right.
But I would never say, oh, that's a fire. So.
Well, that would be, again, the same people who would say hast.
Yeah,
Thou hast litteth thy fire, 'tis a fire. Something like that.
49 down was a stumper for me for a while. Top of a schedule, usually. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, item 1 or item A was line A.
Yes.
The schedule being, I assume, a text form.
Well, I also noticed that ran into 63 across. Big gain with no pain was easy money.
Easy money, yep.
So we had a few financial, and then we also had, of course, 57 down, bookkeeper for short, CPA.
Yep.
So that was sort of our tax area of the grid.
Yes. And that crossed with 57 across. Super fast puzzle solver of a sort. Cuber.
Yes.
I guess that's a Rubik's Cuber.
I don't know what other cubes people try and solve.
Either. What do they call fast crossword solvers? Crossers?
I was thinking maybe the cuber is like people who are really good at doing cubes in their head. 3, 27, 4, 64. Boy, that person is a really fast cuber.
Could be.
And of course, we could somehow segue that into a tuber. Didn't we have something about potatoes the other day?
Yeah.
Or
No, it was tater.
was it tater?
Spud, I think.
I don't know. I was riffing. No, it was potatoes in Peru. The fact that they were originating in Peru.
That's right.
That's where the potatoes come from. But who knows where the tubers come from?
Yep, that's right.
The one word that I'd never heard before was 34 across. Noted stratovolcano that last erupted in 1707 to 08. And that was Fuji, I guess.
Fuji, not Fuji.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's a stratovolcano.
I had never heard of that either.
I guess it refers to various strata in the volcano. I'm not entirely sure. If we have any volcanologists who are listening in, please help us out here with stratovolcanoes.
Yes.
Just drop us a line, crosswordpodcast at iCloud.com.
For 41 across, I wondered if that was really a word in the clue. Absolutamente. And the answer was CC.
Yes. Well, that sounds perfectly valid.
Absolutamente.
Yep.
Okay.
I actually was able to, I had the SI and then I just kept going. I'm sort of pleased with that. That was close to 48 across. It might grab a bite to eat. Talon.
Yes, that was a good one.
Yes, very nice. There were some really good clues in there. I thought.
Yeah, it was an interesting puzzle, and not too challenging. So
right.
That was kind of nice to have an easy Friday.
I guess we should point out that in addition to 48 across, it might grab a bite to eat Talon. We had that crossing 45 down. They may grab a bite to eat molars.
Yes.
Nice touch there.
Very
That's
good.
how you get to be a Friday crossword with that attention to detail.
Yep.
And this was by August Lee Kovac.
Nice job, August.
Yes, indeed. And it's Friday.
Yes, it is.
Which means it's time for Fun Fact Friday. So do you have a fun fact for Fun Fact Friday?
I do have a little fun fact.
Oh, good. A fun factoid.
Yes. Twice this week, we had a crossword answer of Cornbelt. And I mentioned that I grew up in the Cornbelt.
Yes.
But then I really wondered, where does the Cornbelt start and stop? What really designates the Cornbelt in this country?
I'm relieved to hear that was your question, and not the question was, did I really grow up in the Cornbelt?
No.
That would have been bad.
I grew up in the Cornbelt.
Okay.
And anyway, so here is just a little blurb from Wikipedia about the Cornbelt. The Cornbelt is a region of Midwestern United States and part of the Southern United States that, since the 1850s, has dominated corn production in the United States. In North America, corn is the common word for maize. More generally, the concept of the Corn Belt connotes the area of the Midwest dominated by farming and agriculture, though it stretches down into the South as well as reaching into Kentucky. There's a lack of consensus regarding the constituents of the Corn Belt, although it often includes Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, southern Michigan, western Ohio, eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, southern Minnesota, and parts of Missouri. It also sometimes includes South Dakota, North Dakota, all of Ohio, Wisconsin, and all of Michigan and Kentucky. Some people and industries break the Corn Belt down even further and refer to it as the Eastern Corn Belt or the Western Corn Belt.
Wow.
It is characterized by level land, deep fertile soils, and a high organic soil concentration. And as of 2008, the top 4 corn-producing states were Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, and Minnesota, accounting for more than half of the corn grown in the U.S. More recently, the Corn Belt was mapped at the county level using the Land Use and Agricultural Management Practice web service, along with animated map changes in time. Just a little history. William Scully, who was from a wealthy landowning Catholic family in West Tipperary, Ireland, emigrated to Chicago in 1851. He bought up hundreds of thousands of acres of prime Corn Belt farmland in the Midwest and rented it to tenants. By 1906, he owned 225,000 acres in Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri, renting it out to 1,200 tenants.
Whoa.
On account of new agricultural technology between 1860 and 1970, the Corn Belt went from producing mixed crops and livestock into becoming an area focused strictly on wheat cash planting. After 1970, increased crop and meat production required an export outlet. But global recession and a strong dollar reduced exports and created serious problems, even for the best farm managers. I remember that. In 1956, farmer Henry A. Wallace, a pioneer of hybrid seed, declared that the Corn Belt had developed the most productive agricultural civilization the world has ever seen. Now, most of the corn now is fed to livestock, and now soybeans have gained quite a bit of importance in the Corn Belt. But 99% of the corn grown in the Corn Belt is now hybrid corn.
So are they going to start calling it, though, like corn and soy belt?
Corn and soy belt. They should.
It doesn't have the same ring, I guess.
And soy is much more profitable than corn. So I can see why farmers wanted to grow it. I grew up on a farm, and that's why we grew soybeans.
So do people in the Corn Belt like have a special handshake or a little nod that they do as they pass each other?
I don't think so. But
do they like whip out an ear of corn and bash the other one on the head with it? No,
they probably argue over which is the best corn to plant.
Popcorn. I believe that's the correct answer.
No, but yes, that is a little history of the Corn Belt.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So based on the number of states that you mentioned, probably most of our listeners are living in the Corn Belt because they listed just about every state when they, North Dakota, South Dakota, maybe Washington.
No. They're all pretty much right in the middle of the country.
They are, where all the good soil is.
Yes, and flat. Fairly flat.
Yes, indeed.
We've lived in Missouri, and that is kind of hilly, but
right.
Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, pretty flat.
And North Dakota.
And Nebraska, very flat.
North Dakota, if anyone drops water, it just spreads across the entire state instantly. That's how flat it is.
Right.
All right. Well, that was a very sharp, speaking of flat, that was a very sharp fun fact, so thank you for that.
Okay.
And that is it for today. So thank you, listeners, for listening. We will be back again with our cutting-edge analysis of tomorrow's crossword tomorrow.
Bye-bye.